Welcome to Biztech's Technology Show, the show where we feature tech companies across Asia talking about their solutions and how they make a difference in the tech landscape. Now, today we talk about blockchain technology and we feature Tezos. Tezos is an open source platform that addresses key barriers facing blockchain adoption for assets and applications backed by a local community of validators, researchers, and builders. Now, here to tell us more about blockchain technology and the Tezos ecosystem is Katherine Ng. She's the head of APAC Marketing and Operations at TZ APAC. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you, Brian, for the kind introductions. Thanks for having me.
Now, Katherine, can you just set the stage for us by introducing us to TZ APAC, Tezos, and its history?
Sure. So today is actually a very momentous day for us because we just did our official brand launch in the Asia region. We announced a strategic investment into Asia, and TZ APAC has been formed for over a year now. We're headquartered in Singapore, but I'm Malaysian. We have a diverse bunch of individuals from all over the world within this region, focused solely on growth adoptions, on growth adoption stories on the Tezos ecosystem, particularly this region. And we're seeing a lot of interesting adoption stories happening in the ASEAN region, especially. So excited to share more about that.
Okay, yeah. So tell us about Tezos and what are the advantages?
Yeah, so Tezos is an open source technology. So anyone can come and look at the code and build on it. It's the first original blockchain technology that utilizes proof of stake as its consensus mechanism. So proof of stake is a more energy efficient way for blockchains to secure its network. You know that Bitcoin, which is quite popular in the mainstream media, uses proof of work. Ethereum also uses proof of work models, which is computationally intensive and also expensive in terms of like energy costs, and it uses a lot of energy as well. So there's a lot of climate concerns around that.
Okay.
That's why, yeah, in the blockchain world, proof of stake has emerged as like a leading kind of blockchain design for these kind of protocols. So with Tezos, we ended up making a very, very wise choice in terms of blockchain design, and it's helped pay off good dividends in the long run.
Okay, and basically the whole industry is moving towards proof of stake, isn't it? Because even with Ethereum
Yes.
is moving towards that, isn't
Correct.
it?
Yes.
Okay,
Exactly.
and the advantages are obviously more efficient in terms of energy utilization. What are the other, from a security perspective, isn't there more advantages as well?
Yeah, with Tezos, we use formal verification methods to mathematically prove transactions on a blockchain, on-chain. So we make sure that each transaction is accurate and it's also secure on-chain as well. So this depends on the type of programming language you use, and we get a bit more technical. At its core, Tezos uses OCaml and Michelson, and these are very, very, how do you say this? These are languages preferred by quants and financial institutions.
Okay.
When they do their algorithmic computations. So there are other blockchains in the space also doing very good work in this area, but I think like with Tezos, it was built with security in its DNA, so from the ground up. And then in terms of like design, it's well suited for enterprise adoption. So it's quite interesting to see how an open source technology like the internet very much is helping shape, I would say, the blockchain conversations are revolving more around Web 3.0. What is the new decentralized future going to look like in terms of the internet of money or just value transfers, the way we do things, e-commerce? Yeah, it's a fascinating space. So
okay, Katherine, I want to take a step back a little bit, and just for our audience who aren't familiar with blockchain technology, quickly give us a primer on it.
Yeah, sure. So blockchain is basically like a system to record information, right? It's like a ledger. It's like a public ledger. When I refer to public blockchains, yeah.
And it's a distributed ledger.
It's a distributed ledger.
Yeah.
And when you record data on this ledger, it's immutable. It's impossible to change or hack the system. That's why, because you have such a distributed system all over the world, you have basically, Tezos, for example, is backed by a global community. Anyone can be a validator, meaning a validator helps secure the network. They're called nodes, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that way, it helps reduce the centralization of risk. So for example, like, you know, you're gonna hack a system, it's almost impossible to hack because you have all these like nodes all over the country, all over the world, securing the network, right? Whereas if you're like, say everything's on the cloud and the cloud servers go down, that's it, gone. Yeah. Yeah, so that's the beauty of blockchain in terms of its decentralized nature. And on top, so blockchain is the infra layer, right? The infrastructure layer. It's like the highways that people can build, information highways that people can build layers of applications on. So you can, it was like kind of like back in the day when the internet was just like HTTP protocols, like people were just talking in terms of like code. And then, you know, Google came on and built a search engine, and Microsoft came on board and built its like a Microsoft layer offices and things like that. And then you have Cisco building security systems, and then Lazada building e-commerce. And so it's kind of like, how do you say, it's the same thing happening with blockchain. You have the infra layers being built out, and then slowly you're going to see application layers on top. And you're seeing that in the blockchain gaming space, where, you know, people who lost their jobs to COVID, especially in the Philippines, they're using blockchain games as a way to earn income.
That's right. I in fact did a show on that with basically play to earn models.
Yes. Yes.
And that's an interesting thing. That's a separate one show on its own.
Yeah, it's a separate show. Yes.
Yeah, but you know, because how does TZ APAC, how do you all make money? Who are your customers, your stakeholders, and what's your business model like?
Yeah, so our business model is driven on a consultancy basis. So we advise startups, we advise creators, we advise enterprises on how to utilize blockchain technology in their digital transformation strategies. So we basically even deploy grant funding for the growth of the blockchain industry. Yeah, for startups interested to build on Tezos, we do basically help them facilitate the funding and also help them in terms of developer support. So you can think of us as like an end-to-end like consultancy plus like digital transformation firm for your blockchain needs.
Okay, so give me an example, Katherine, of some interesting use cases for blockchain in the region.
Yeah, so we've worked with Tada, the ride-hailing app. I'm not sure if you've heard of them, but they basically, yeah, it's basically a Grab rival, and I was ex-Grab, so so they're using Tezos to power their database information systems.
Okay.
Yeah. Separately, we're also working with Shuttle One, which is basically providing micro lending solutions to SMEs in Singapore.
Okay, that is an interesting thing, because so micro lending, I see the use case very clearly, because the ledgers and keeping everything, you know, the integrity of the system and stuff like that, that's very clear to me. But then a ride-hailing app, how does that work, and why? Why do you use that as a why do you use blockchain as opposed to a traditional development model? Yeah,
no, that's a good question. So with blockchain databases, I think people just want to be able to innovate on top of like decentralized identities, depending on the business model. Maybe they see like, oh, there's more value to be unlocked when you actually store data on the blockchain. There's a whole other track. It's called decentralized identities. Yeah, and that's something we can explore perhaps in another conversation. And also there's security considerations as well when startups choose to build on blockchain databases. Yeah, so
So
Yeah.
I want to talk to you then. Okay, let's zoom in since we're on the topic on the enterprise side of blockchain, right? So we're talking about finance and let's specifically zoom in on DFI or decentralized finance, which is an umbrella term for the public blockchain space, right?
Sure.
So tell us about this.
Yeah, so DeFi is essentially programmable money. It's like what do you call this? Money Legos. So you're basically building new ways of financial innovation. You are basically disrupting a lot of the ways we do traditional finance today. So
give us an example of an application of DFI.
Sure. Yeah, so you have protocols, lending protocols, or borrowing protocols, token bonding curves, things like that can be automated market makers. So you have, for example, national bourses, right? National exchanges like SGX or Bursa. Now you have decentralized exchanges, which basically run on code, like completely 100%, and no human intervention. Whenever you provide liquidity to the exchange, it's all automated. So it's a fascinating way to build liquidity, retail liquidity, for the new token economies. And I think a lot of innovation is happening in this space amongst different chains, but Ethereum definitely is leading the way, but Tezos is also catching up, so stay tuned.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a little bit more about that on the regulatory framework side. But the other thing that's also really interesting on the enterprise side is really the central bank digital currency. I think Jamaica has just announced that they're going to do something like that, right? Or they've done it already. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, CBDCs is basically the central bank's way of experimenting with blockchain and all digital currencies. Like, for example, China's CBDC is actually not blockchain based, but there's a lot of, there may be some blockchain application in the future, but essentially it's coming up with a digital currency.
That's right.
So, yeah, the US dollar, for example, is the global reserve currency. It's the most dominant like Forex pair whenever you compare the Forex market trading pairs, right? And now, as currencies become more globalized, sovereign currencies become more globalized due to like global Forex trading, which countries are going to be a bit more competitive when it comes to their currency? It's a very interesting question to observe. It depends on their monetary policies, but definitely if you have a CBDC, it will help increase the flow of money in the system globally, and it will also help the velocity of money just move a lot faster.
Yeah, because one of the key things is, so it comes back to what I was going to ask you then after this question, is really about regulation. So essentially, the current regulatory framework has to evolve in order then to take advantage of this, which they're doing, because central banks, it's not just central banks, it's also exchanges. They're trying to figure out how do we then not lose control, because that's the broader issue.
Sovereignty, yeah. It is. So I think it requires global coordination. The FATF, Financial Action Task Force, has been closely monitoring and providing guidelines to national regulators on how to look at the blockchain space. Yeah, specifically into stable coins or other token currencies, tokens and other digital currencies. So it's still evolving, and it's still a, technology lawyers are also themselves still helping shape the law as we go along. MAS in Singapore has been very progressive with the Payment Services Act. I think Malaysia also issued their own legislation for...
Yes, because the Malaysian regulatory sandbox, I think after Singapore in this region probably is most ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
In ASEAN itself. But with all of this, however, despite the promise of ironclad security, there are securities still about blockchain. And most recently then, the cross-chain decentralized finance platform Poly Network was just attacked, and basically a hacker drained $600 million of crypto. So with things like that happening, that worries a lot of people, because essentially then the whole promise of blockchain technology is literally centered around security. And if that can be compromised, therefore the business case for that falls apart. So your thoughts?
Yeah, no, that's a very, very good question and very good hypothesis. So with the smart contract code, I think for that particular network, I think it got compromised, and that comes down to the code itself, like how it was designed. And this is, you're talking about the application layer.
Yeah.
So yeah, this, whenever you have people innovating on chain with all these new and different novel contract designs, there's bound to be exploitations, and it's just a matter of like how well the community responds to it, and it's a learning curve. That's why public chains are battle tested, right? Because you'll never know how robust the tech is until something like this happens.
Correct.
But similar hacks like this have happened for centralized exchanges, and usually in terms of governance systems, someone will have to compensate. I'm not sure.
Because you see, so let me give you an example. Today, if I'm a hacker, and I go and hack the SGX, I manage to penetrate and maybe erase stuff, transaction details, and so forth. The reality, and I'm using a very simplistic business case. The exchange is liable. The exchange will have rollbacks. They have basically transaction because of the way that current databases, so it could be graph database, it could be whatever databases they're currently using, they've got backups. So I've got a right of redress legally and enforcement of contracts. Today, blockchain is probably, yes, the promise of security. You don't have that iron cat guarantee yet, do you?
Yeah, it comes down to how the community would react to the situation. So typically it would concern the community that is actively using that particular contract. I'm not sure which community this is, whether it's built on Ethereum or some other chain, but let's see. Usually with these kind of hacks, the users of the users affected would be compensated in some way from what's happening.
Yeah. So that's the thing.
I know.
Let's move on to, let's say, the creator side of blockchain. Tell us about NFTs, what it's all about, and where you see the opportunities are.
Yeah, so with NFTs, it opens up a whole...
Okay, so it's non-fungible tokens.
Non-fungible tokens, yeah. It opens up a whole new creator economy. So it enables creators like artists to actually create their own either like digital creations or physical creations, and then put it on the blockchain and then have it directly accessed by their community. So they don't really need to go through an agency, or don't need to go through, if they so wish, to actually connect with their communities. And that's just an amazing way for them to really, really build out their own community and reward their own community in their own way. So there's a lot of cultural implications to this. So you see a lot of global brands, like with Tezos, we announced the F1 partnerships, technical partnerships with McLaren and also Red Bull Racing to build out their NFT experiences, NFT fan experiences. Yeah, because NFTs are non-fungible, meaning you can only have like one unique token, and it's a proof of ownership. So it's on a blockchain, so everyone can verify that, okay, someone owns this like $69 million artwork, for example, which was one of the reasons why NFTs went viral. Yeah,
so this is why I actually talked to my 13-year-old daughter about NFTs, because she's an artist. And I said, hey, I think this is your future. go and find out about this, because basically at the end of the day, I see where, this is what I think democratization of art comes in. people create from all over the world, put them on platforms, and they may be created in Africa and Asia, but then sold in the UK and US for whatever it's worth. I mean, a lot of money, people build on it. That's the opportunity moving forward.
Exactly. Yeah, you're building price discovery for what used to be a very illiquid market.
Correct.
Yeah.
And a very geographically specific market. So the 13-year-old who is doing manga art, for example, is now able to reach a far bigger audience.
Correct. Yeah, you can build a global audience. Yeah, totally. You can do it from your daughter can do it from your home.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So are you finding, Katherine, that Asia seems to be at the forefront of the adoption of blockchain and NFTs and so forth? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, just looking at ASEAN alone, right? Like more than 600 million people. I mean, we China and India have 1.3 billion people each. So it's just by sheer market volumes alone, Asia would be a hotbed of in terms of like innovation and also like embracing a digital first approach. Yeah, when it comes to new tech. So blockchain, I think is this one of the new emerging technologies that's gonna really transform the way we really do things in Asia. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens over the next few years.
Okay, now moving on to talent-wise. So you have all this technology, you need the talent to fuel this, to write the code and so forth.
Yeah.
Where are we at in Asia on this?
Yeah, so I would say Asia, we do have a rising pool of talent. They need to start young from university, and I can see already, all these like student university clubs being formed around blockchain, and research being done into the space by students using their own laptops and just going on to all these just Googling for information, right? Kids these days have smartphones. There's no stopping them. Like they just grow up a lot faster nowadays.
Absolutely.
Right? And they're very, very, very how do you say this? Receptive to cryptocurrency. Yeah. So kids these days don't need a bank. They'll just open a digibank wallet or something, some mobile wallet that like Grab Pay or whatever. Like it's like, why do I need a bank account for sometimes, So that's how I see tech really changing the way we do things, and cryptocurrencies is one way of getting people into the space, and then more innovation will happen as people realize the potential of this technology. I can really do something great with this. Yeah, okay. Whether it's NFTs or whether it's enterprise innovation. Yeah.
So Katherine, let me ask you something. So let's just say I'm an ordinary corporate person.
Yeah.
I work in a large corporation, or I own a business. Besides cryptocurrencies, which I'm already invested in. As an example, in this hypothetical case, what are the opportunities for people to make investments or make money that rides the wave of blockchain technologies? Obviously, NFTs is one of them.
Yeah, NFTs is one of them. Actually, becoming a corporate baker or validator is another way to participate in a network. So
how is that? What do you do?
Yeah, so Tezos is big on getting corporate nodes or bakers on board.
Okay.
So we've announced an EDF group subsidiary called Exion. They've spun up a node on Tezos because they wanted to experiment with proof of stake technology. Okay. Ubisoft, the gaming giant, is also a Tezos baker. Okay. We've got bakers all over the world. And then we have banks also offering staking services on Tezos, like Signum Bank. So it's getting corporate, how do you say this, adoption. It's just that then more needs to happen, and more conversations need to happen in the boardrooms on, okay, how, a lot of, let's say, retail liquidity is now in the public blockchain space. How can institutions best serve this market if we do want to go into the space, or how do we even like, do a POC? Usually the corporates will start with POCs.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just need to kind of meet them there and just do a collaboration. Yeah. And figure out how we best fit their corporate strategies.
Okay, Katherine, final question. What are the last bits you'd like to leave us with, your final thoughts before we end this conversation?
Blockchain's the future.
That's a good one. That's a good way to end. Blockchain is the future.
Yeah,
Katherine?
and Tezos is leading the way.
Okay, little sales plug there. Katherine, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thanks, Brian, for having me. Thank you.
Now, I'm Brian Fernandez, and I've been speaking to Katherine Ng, the head of Asia Pacific Marketing and Operations at TZ APAC on Biztech's Technology Show. This video will be on our Facebook and LinkedIn sites, as well as our website, www.biztech.asia. Please like and subscribe our various platforms. Thank you very much for tuning in.